Order. I'm going to call it by my watch, which says 6:30. So,
Time checking in.
let me get my agenda out here. Okay.
I would make a motion that we dispense with the reading of the minutes and pass them as presented.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. Denise, you got that? Okay. Okay. Do you have, for the record, do you have everybody who's here? Okay. All right. We have a new member, Bobby Paley, who is from Lee. And now Lee is represented, and it hasn't been represented for quite a while. So now we actually have all 5 towns represented on the committee for the first time in quite a while, which is nice to see because we have a lot of stuff coming up.
A lot of collaboration.
The first part of the agenda is the Ctsb report. Rich?
Yep. Hello. I'm just going to sit if you don't mind. I usually stand, but people have a right stand. Okay, the first part of my report tonight is our annual Fall Festival of Shakespeare, which we've been covering for 33 years now. And this was the first year that we streamed the event live on the internet. Last year the festival was canceled due to COVID, and this year we worked with the staff at Shakespeare and Company to plan how we could bring the 10 high school performances to our community with minimal attendance in the audience. So parents were not allowed at Shakespeare this year, and only the previous performers were allowed in the audience. So we worked with their staff. Everyone was tested for COVID. Ctsb volunteers and staff and Shakespeare and Company staff were tested prior to the performances. And this year was a culmination of, I feel, everything that I've done and our board has done the past 2 years, such as implementing a new website, streaming all 3 channels to our website, installing a new tightrope system, which is the technology and the software and hardware that allows us to broadcast. So our investment in a new system allowed us to pull in streams and broadcast the streams. So all the work we've done over the past year, 2 years, has really paid off for this year's performance. And I just want to remind the Cable Advisory Commission that it was kind of a testament to our future in the internet. I think moving forward, we're going to be, our presence may be heavily viewed on the internet as opposed to cable television. I hope someday we can receive funding through internet subscriptions as people continue to eliminate their cable subscriptions. More importantly than the new equipment was the amazing work done by the Ctsb staff and volunteers. We witnessed not only people giving their time back to the community, but sharing their expertise, commitment, and knowledge in their roles. It was the 4 days of performances were flawless. We had volunteers. Everyone showed up, took tests, COVID tests, where they wore their masks. The outpouring of people giving back to the community was amazing. Some people were there all day, 10 hours a day for 4 days. So it was really great to see people taking time out of their busy schedules to give back. I know the CAC has asked in the past about viewership numbers and who's watching and things like that, and that's something that Spectrum, the cable companies, have never been able to provide the Cable Advisory Commission. So this year we used Google to monitor hits to our website. So the days prior to the Shakespeare event, our website saw 52, 77, 150, 173 visits per day. On the 4 days of the Fall Festival performances, day 1, Thursday, November 18th, we had 617 visits. Friday the 19th, 535 visits. November 20th, which was the biggest day, where we had 4 performances, we had 619 visits to our website. And on Sunday, the last day, we had 409. And then it went back down to 177 and 74.
Is that all pages on your website?
So this was particularly that's hits to the website, not exactly the performances.
And so you're saying that including the government streaming, I mean, not to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I guess it would, I'll have to clarify with our website administrator if it was like hits to the website itself, or if it was really particular to a certain page. I believe it's just to the website
Yeah.
itself.
No, I was just curious because on the slow days, for 5 towns and multiple boards per town, not a lot of people are watching then.
Yeah. So if 75 people on a non-performance day are tuning into our website, it's not a bad number.
Good.
I have a business idea for you. As streaming becomes more and more part of our life and subscriptions, you have the opportunity to be the broker between the cultural institution, in this case, Shakespeare and Company,
Right.
but think of all the other institutions we have. And you then sell those streams to Netflix, and they're hunting. You're the perfect kind of candidate because you're not the most sophisticated, you're in a corner of the country that doesn't have a spotlight, but you're here.
Right.
And all the institutions are here, and you have the relationships.
Yeah, very true. And the only kind of catch there is I wish we could do more with Shakespeare. I wish we could cover all of their performances, but due to performance licensing and musical performances, most often we're not allowed to record.
That's this week. But that is, if you look at the institutional purchases, Bob Dylan sold his entire backlist for, what was it? 532 million, something
Right.
like that. No, we have a tremendous amount of value here. We need to collaborate. We've got the institutional heft with you, and it will come, but let's plan for it.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it saves a lot of us the worry about how do we pay for something we really need where it doesn't have that economic.
Right.
So
I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
Because also, this is the Berkshires. It does have a name.
Yeah.
And certain institutions have much higher name recognition than others. But, and again, this is streaming the website versus on the cable channels, of which there are 3. So I think this merits some attention, but it may be something that.
That's something that we'll have to.
As the board goes forward, the board may wish, not this committee, your board may wish to put aside some money to investigate that, because that's going to take some manpower.
Right.
You're going to find that there's FCC constraints in terms of what you can sell, the money that you can make. By law, you're not a profit-making company.
Right.
So,
Right, and we're also, we can't advertise or persuade someone to subscribe to something or purchase something.
or
call to
compete
action.
against
But I
commercial
think,
TV.
I think an interesting point that was made was to act as the broker and let the next person in the line sell it
Right.
and advertise it. I think it's an idea that merits some thought, because this whole market is changing dramatically.
Yes, and I know in the past, prior to myself being the executive director, it was, the Shakespeare Festival was always kind of a wash. We would sell DVDs, but we really didn't make any money off of it. And I did bring it up to the board this year that we would, maybe even raise prices a little bit, or we've used our advertising during which I'll talk about in a minute. We advertised Ctsb heavily in our channel numbers. The performances were on channel 1302. But we did see an increase in DVD sales this year because of our streaming presence and our ability to advertise that we offer DVDs. We don't replay Shakespeare at all. It's only available on DVD. So to date, we have about $1,400 in DVD sales. So it's been stronger than previous years, but we probably spend that much money on food for all the volunteers. So it is kind of a wash, even though it's referred.
Yeah.
It's really part of who you are. It's not a wash at all.
Right, it's a give back to the community, and our board felt the same way. It was a give back. It wasn't a money-making opportunity, and it was to
Do
benefit
you
our
have any
community.
DVDs left?
We burn the DVDs as orders come in.
I see. Perfect.
But they're always available for even previous years.
They don't need to keep inventory.
That's great. I was just making sure.
Yeah. It's nice that you can at least break even on that. Yeah, and not have it become a cost item, because every penny you make is a penny certainly earned and used, so that's fine.
Yes,
Okay.
so, and moving forward, we'll continue to stream performances like this and maybe add, streaming a parade or other things, so it's only gonna get better from here. But again, it is, I know you're the Cable Advisory Commission, and a lot of the stuff I talk about is kind of internet-based, but we've pushed ourselves in that direction to reach people, and it's paying off, and we can, we can show numbers in that direction. So that's it for Shakespeare. My next topic is CTSB projects and news. While the Fall Festival of Shakespeare has been our focus for a few months at CTSB, we continue to advertise in the local Shopper's Guide and the Berkshire Edge. As I've talked about in the past, we've got hats and decals. We now have promotional cards that we're leaving at libraries and town halls, and these same images can be seen when we stream something, and they're run on our broadcast as well. So we have a big push to advertise CTSB and let people know where we are, and that our channel numbers are up in the 1300s, which a lot of people are currently unaware of. We have other projects. We're currently purchasing a weatherproof camera to mount on our roof, which will stream into our building. And in between shows, we're going to be streaming live weather from our rooftop. So people who maybe can't get outside or want a live look at the weather, we'll now be offering that multiple times a day. And I can tell you from my years in the news business, people love weather cameras.
Well, look at how much Murdoch invested in the Weather Channel.
Yeah, and currently there's no weather cameras in our area. Like if you
No.
search, the closest one is like Albany, New York.
Well, there is one weather camera that's at, in Pittsfield.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I seriously think you should get trail cams too, because there's the thing that everybody looks at on like something like Facebook, and
Right.
yeah, they're easy, and they just beam the content up to wherever, and it's kind of short money. But I have a question on Shakespeare.
Sure.
So I work for the Waldorf School, which is one of the our kids put on one of the plays,
Productions.
Julius Caesar, I think, and normally, in a normal year, there's a significant amount of revenue, because it's an expensive program to participate in. It's like $10,000 or $15,000. But the ticket revenue comes back to the school. Now, obviously, this year, we just had parents and staff were able to attend in person. Everybody else had to watch it via you guys.
Yeah.
There wasn't a charge, though, to watch it, was there?
No.
No, of course not. And so, I'm wondering if there's going to be any reticence on something like, Shakespeare, where, there's a pretty significant revenue stream for the in-person, ticket sales. Was it streamed
Patrick,
live, or?
That was the argument when television started to replace radio. It was the same thing with the computer. Technology is an innovator, and people will pay more to innovate. And
That's
what-
nice, but I run the budget for the Waldorf School, and I'll tell you that 10 or 15 grand is a scholarship, so,
Well,
I'm
let's
just saying.
find a way to make it a win-win so that the money
I'm
circulates.
just
We make
wondering.
more money and it circulates more equitably.
Yes, that's something we can discuss moving forward, and I did discuss it with the board, so we weren't really just kind of breaking even, at least making a little bit to pay for some of the technology that
Right.
we've invested in, but, I don't know if we charge for the stream.
No, I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm wondering if the schools are going to push back if there's no COVID, because they want people to attend in person.
But
Oh.
that's the point. Numbers go up if you offer multi-channel.
Well, I
That's
think
the-
there's also a huge difference between Shakespeare Festival, which is public schools, versus a private school. I know the Shakespeare Festival, people want to see their kids. They want to buy DVDs. You know, Waldorf is private, so you have a little bit more, control, but part of CTSB's mission is to provide cultural
Yeah.
happenings. And I'm just wondering, Rich, if you have any plans in place to potentially pilot next year, picking up some of the school plays, at the various high schools, or my God, the grandmothers love to see the little ones. And that may also be a source of community, not only goodwill, but also generating DVD sales, because those are in the schools, and as long as the sound is right, there is no having to feed people or any of those other expenses that go along with, with the Shakespeare Festival.
Yeah,
In conjunction with that, it also can get some of the kids involved in the
Right.
production.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, that's a good
Yeah.
point.
Right, well, I mean, I
Yeah.
can say that when I worked for Dalton Community Television, I went to Wacona Regional every week, and the kids switched and recorded the play that they were working on.
Yeah.
But I've kind of hit a roadblock in South County as I approached the schools and asked them about that. Most of these plays are not for rebroadcast.
Oh, you mean
and
they're licensed?
They're licensed.
They're
So a lot of them are
licensed. Yeah, they are
Disney,
licensed.
are
Yep.
Disney plays.
Yep,
And the
you're right.
schools can pay for a licensing fee for themselves, and they can pay an additional fee
You're right.
for like a blanket license. So a lot of the schools don't have it in their budget to pay for the license. So a lot of times they'll take something they purchased years back, and they'll just keep going with it, and it's kind of unlicensed.
Yeah.
And if they share it, they could get in trouble. So there's a little bit of pushback on that. Because when I first came here, I said, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing what I did at Dalton TV? And everyone said, oh, we can't. We can't do it. We can't run plays like that.
Well, so it's a difference of content that makes the licensing, so we need to change the licensing.
Right.
So I think that this is going to be a national discussion, because Disney can't afford to have a community unequal to what California gets or whatever.
So I'm going to approach the superintendent at Southern Berkshire Regional School District and find out for their plays that are coming up in '22, what the additional license fee would be to rebroadcast.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah, that would be great.
Because I think that might be an interesting thing, and there are a lot of donations made to that school, and that might be a way to do that. The other thing I wanted to mention, at the start of our select board meetings, we thank CTSB, say it's being recorded, and we thank them for recording it. But I just wonder, I don't think Sheffield would have a problem if there was a little thing that we would put on our select board table that said, this is being brought to you by CTSB, view on channel
Yeah.
13, whatever. That's another way of getting some advertising, because I do know people watch the select board meetings, I'm not sure why, but they do watch them all over the towns, even if it's not their town. They want to know what's going on. So if you were to consider that, I could ask our board, but I'm sure we would be willing to put a little plaque at the end of our table to tell people where they could find you.
Sure, we invested in lawn signs this summer.
Or your
That
website.
we place at public performances, so people know that when they see a camera there, they know where they can see it at a later time. So I could certainly bring you one of those without the legs on it, that they're probably, like this big.
And we could
But-
put it in the room, and if you
Sure.
wanted to put your website on it,
Sure,
we can do that.
Yeah.
I'd be more than happy to do that, yeah.
That would be great.
That's a great
Um,
idea.
And to answer your question, I wasn't sure if you were asking like what we're gonna do in future years when COVID is hopefully gone and the Tina Packer Playhouse is full of people. Will we continue to stream? I think we've set a bar now that will never be brought back, so.
Good.
I think even if it's a packed house, you're still gonna have people that can't get in, who want, elderly people who would love to view from home, so yeah, I don't think
I mean,
COVID will.
At Ollie, they went from, 175 people that might participate in an event to 1,230.
Right.
Now they're joint venturing also with Berkshire Innovation Center, this idea of collaboration. And once you're in a place, you may go back to Africa, but you still want to tune in. And streaming will make that possible.
Yeah.
And why don't we get a share of it to share more broadly?
Yeah, absolutely, and our staff would appreciate, any help by the CAC or the town leaders or even our board. We're a staff of only 4 people. And so it's a very, for 3 channels.
Get the signs ready for the 5 town meeting rooms.
Sure.
With the select board meeting rooms, and we'll get them up.
Okay, I have 30 of them right now, so I can bring them by later this week.
5 will do.
Okay,
Same with the
awesome.
school committees too. The school committees are also
Oh, that's true.
broadcast. So
Yes, yes.
there's 2, yeah.
School committees, absolutely. So
Yeah.
that's 10.
Okay,
So,
No, because the school committee, the Southern Berkshire is 3 towns, so.
okay.
another idea is that Christy Edmonds is the new director of Mass MoCA. And I think the way her mind is working, economic development, is going to be very much how she wants to rethink the campus. So it's not just affordable housing, but it's all the creativity, and a link with you, I think, would be phenomenal.
Yes.
I think another link with Hancock Shaker Village. Jennifer Thompson has done, I don't know how many films, 9, I think. And the one she did, Museum Town, isn't there some way that people could watch it at a discount or through you?
Right.
Anyway, I'll make those connections and create the idea.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. I mean, currently we work with the Lee Library and Mary Philpott, and, we've covered the quilt show and the stained glass show and all the photography and the educational classes there, and we work with the Lee Historical Society, and we're always looking for more. We're always looking for more partnerships and more ways to bring things to
I think
people.
you should talk to the trustees at NAMCAG also. I mean, the light shows that they're doing, you've been once, you went back to California, oh, you want to show your children or your friend,
Yeah,
It's a common thing now.
right,
Think of where we were in the digital age 20 years ago.
right.
So-
Yeah, and one of our big challenges is, there's a lot of ideas, but we always need volunteers to be the videographer on these, so finding volunteers is a real challenge.
Okay, there's a business, what's it called, it's run by a creative group, and anybody who's in the video, music business, I'll ask Casey Rothstein, at Racebrook Lodge. They're just around, they're near town, I think.
Yeah, I know Casey, yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's not Casey. It's the group that he uses for his, all his social media stuff. Okay, well, it doesn't matter. I'll
Sure.
introduce you. I think they're all for profit, but we all live here. I invite them into the circle and see how you make it happen.
Yeah, that's okay if they're for profit, as long as they're not asking for a call to action to purchase anything. And if they themselves want to come and borrow a camera, we have shelves and shelves of cameras. We now have GoPro cameras, the small little waterproof trail cameras. We have handheld cameras. Some people record their shows on iPhones. So,
Could you have kids going out and using them with a teacher or something?
we have St. Mary's School that does a lot of stuff with us. Reaching the kids is especially during COVID has been very difficult.
No, but I'm talking about where we are next week, maybe.
Sure, yeah.
So to speak.
That we have the equipment. I think it's just about making the connections.
So it's the
Okay.
linkages.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys talk about it separately?
Yeah, take my card.
And we're gonna,
Sorry.
and we're gonna move the agenda here.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly say, it's very easy because my son, who's 7 years old, has his own TV show on Ctsb, and he's 7, and he'll do a show for 30 minutes, and he promotes himself online, and it's a big hit.
So what kind of following does he get? Do you have any idea?
I keep the comments and following stuff kind of private on YouTube because I don't want someone to say anything, negative or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah.
So we don't really measure it, but it's on our channels.
Okay,
and
let's
and
pick up the conversation.
That's great.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
And text is fine.
Okay.
All right, so we've covered all that stuff.
Talk about the weather camera. And lastly, on my report, I was happy to report that CTSB, along with our finance director, Gary Allen, have paid off the mortgage on our
Yes.
building at 40 Limestone Road.
Yes.
So the building is paid for, and it's thanks in part to our solar panels that we installed years ago. We get a substantial amount of money from those, and that's helped pay our mortgage off. So that's behind us now. And then you did ask for a rough draft of our capital request.
Mm-hmm.
This is relatively short. It's just a quick list of what we're. So every Monday, the staff meets along with our board president, Mary Philpott, and we've spent a considerable amount of time discussing our future needs to keep community television relevant and up to date with the latest technology. Community TV will be important for many years to come as we broadcast important public meetings and community events on cable television. The viability of CTSB will require the following items that we expect will need replacement or upgrading between 2023 and 2028. So I have 9 items. And those 9 items total $350,000.
Wow.
So the first item is LED studio lighting. So that would be replacing all the lights in our green screen giant studio with LED lights that aren't hot and they don't break. And there's a lot of money that we could even get back from the electric companies on doing that install. The second is our control room switcher, which is the device that switches between the cameras in our studio. Those cost about $25,000, and ours is very out of date. Over the next few years, we need to replace 10 field cameras. These are the cameras that go out to town halls and school committees and volunteers take out to produce public content. That's $30,000 alone right there. We need 3 new studio cameras, the 3 cameras that are inside the studio. That's about $35,000. We have 10 edit and training room computers. We replaced 2 of them recently. But there's still about 8 more that are 2013 models, and you can't even update them to the latest software. There's $40,000 there. We've been offered by the town of Stockbridge to use a kitchen in their building for a cooking show. We would need to equip that with cameras, lights, microphones, cabling. That's about $10,000. The 7th item is robotic cameras in town halls and school committee rooms. Pittsfield has for years broadcast the town meetings, city hall meetings, using robotic cameras that are controlled back at their studio. If we could do that in all 5 towns, that's probably $80,000 investment. Our tightrope hardware, which I was just talking about, has a lifespan of 6 to 10 years. We just replaced it. In 6 years, we're going to be due for a new tightrope system. And there's another $60,000 to $70,000. So that's looking 5 to 6 years down the road from our new contract. And the final item is staff has been asking for a storage shed on our property for lawnmowers, snow blowers, fuel, generators, props, and tools. That's $10,000. So those items total $350,000 in all, and that concludes my report for this evening.
Rich, could you leave that with Denise so we could all get a copy of that?
I can give her a copy.
Because that wasn't, why did I
That's
not?
it, right here.
Oh, he gave it to us already?
No.
Because it wasn't. Would you email it to me?
You
Thank
can
you.
take this copy here.
Okay,
And then
all right, thank you.
the last item I had, I'm sure you're all aware of it, but there was a bill brought to the House of Representatives the other day, the amendment of the Communications Act of 1934.
Yeah.
So it was brought to the House. It doesn't have a bill number yet, but it'll change wording in the Communications Act of 1934 to help us maintain our monetary funding for our annual funds, preventing the FCC from taking out in-kind service payments. So we'll follow this closely. This is just the start of this, and we'll follow up on this next time.
Excellent. Who's sponsoring that?
I don't have the list with me right now, but I think it's about 15 to 20
Who
Um,
from
Congress-
Massachusetts or around here? New York, Massachusetts?
Massachusetts, it is, why can't I say her name right now?
Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren has
Okay.
signed on, she has. And then it's some from Maine, New York, all over the country.
All right. So I think we can use our pressure points if we have any.
Yeah. Okay.
I've noticed phone calls make a difference because nobody's in their office. So somebody has to listen to them and they tally them.
And I'll leave some of these cards tonight if anyone wants to take them
Yeah,
to
I wanna-
town halls or things like that.
Congratulations
Yeah.
on Safe Spring Company.
Thank you.
Nice
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Rick. So membership is up, down, sideways?
Consistent at 137 members.
So it's flat? kind of? Yeah, okay. And I will just add something that I like to add whenever you finish the CTSB report is, they always need volunteers. And volunteering at CTSB is not just doing, it's learning. It's learning how to do it properly, professionally, and you can learn how to do your own family videos like a pro as a volunteer. So just keep that in mind, folks.
Yeah, you have
Okay.
terrific opportunities to up that ante.
Okay, Spectrum report. John?
Good evening, everybody. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Everybody stay safe during this holiday season. I don't have a lot to report this evening, other than, I'd like to keep the communications line open with everybody, and rather than waiting for the quarterly meetings, just to have more constant communications about issues that might come up. I know there's a lot of new members here tonight, and just want to keep the communications lines open and let me know if there are issues that pop up.
I sent you an issue, which,
Mr. Lane,
yes,
yep, yeah.
Which was what?
a person actually in Lee,
Right.
no, in Lennox, I'm sorry, who wanted,
Yeah, they made customer contact, and he's going to consider it and get back to us later this
when did they
week.
make customer contact?
Today, I believe.
Okay, why did it take more than a month?
I don't know what
And
happened.
and suddenly, the day of the meeting, all of a sudden it happens.
Yeah,
That's why it
the day I
happens.
received it, I forwarded it on like I always do, and for some reason, it fell through the cracks.
Well, it requires follow-up sometimes, things like that.
Yeah, well, we have a system in place where that shouldn't happen, but it did this time, so.
Well,
I have always
it's happened,
found-
it's happened on a number of occasions, so don't say that it's that rare, it's not, okay?
Linda, I've
Yeah.
always found, and I think John and I have a good working relationship, and when he says to report things, have him report it, but I also report it to him, and then I follow up with it. I call the person back.
I did, and that's how I
who tells
found out
me, and then-
that he didn't get
Just
called.
let me finish, and then I call John back. So I dog it, because I'm usually considered the point person in Sheffield. And if I don't dog it, he's not going to dog it, and customer service is not going to dog it. And with the exception of people who are not happy with prices and/or connection fees, I don't think we've had any open issues that don't revolve around one of those two things, which I can't resolve. But people at least feel that they've been heard and gotten the service, even if it's to say I can't afford it. So I dog John, and he's supposed to dog his folks, but I have found it essential to dog John or whoever's in his place, and he's the main person for me. It has worked out well, not always satisfactory to the person who wants the service, but it's worked well in getting the issues resolved in a very timely fashion.
Well, this issue is one that has come up before, and I do believe this is a case of somebody who was a legacy Time Warner customer who wanted to decrease his bills because he thought he couldn't afford to pay that kind of fee anymore, and not having your people handle it properly when he initially made the call and made numerous calls and ran into that wall. No, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. Because I've heard of this before, and I have names. I've sent you one. Well, no, she didn't want to write it down. She didn't want to give out her name after that. But it's not a unique situation.
Yeah, it's expensive, and not everybody can afford it. There's cord cutting going on, as you alluded to. We're losing millions, the industry's losing millions and millions of customers. Streaming is a big part of it, you mentioned that earlier. A lot of people are going Roku and, Apple TV, and you name it. There's a lot of different options out there for video now, satellite, and the whole industry is changing.
Yes, but
And it's
that's not the issue I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who actually want to get out of a status called Time Warner legacy and be regular Spectrum customers. And full,
We can talk offline. I don't want to get into people's personal business, but, they wanted a cheaper alternative, and I'll leave it at that.
yeah, because they're paying a lot more for the same service. That's why they want it. And
So
your
you're
customer
evaluating
service
cheaper
people,
options.
your customer service people just don't want to deal with it, and so they just say, no, you can't do it.
But as I recall, when that merger occurred and then it transferred over to you from Adelphi and various other owners, part of the agreement, as I recall, meant that you had to have a pathway for that customer, and if you had to handhold that customer till they were able to transfer to Spectrum, that's in your documents. I think you should relook at them. And report back to us, please.
Michael?
Well, I would say that my experience in the past has been that Spectrum, as far as issues outside of pricing, has been pretty good about responding, following up with customer concerns and things like that.
But they have a legal
And I think
obligation to
that we
handle
have to
this
make
kind of
sure that
customer.
we're staying in that area, because, like I said, my experience is the same. Outside of pricing, because pricing is not
The
something
pricing we
that's
have nothing
under us.
to do with,
Right.
and I find frequently, this is a confusing business. People do not know where to call frequently. They confuse the phone with the internet. We are only responsible for the cable
Right.
section of it. But, I've been taking phone calls and I'm very active about taking phone calls. I even put my name and phone number in the Sheffield Times. And people just need to be, encouraged to call and to ask for things. I have found, because I've done this for myself, trying to lower the bill, there are packages that are put together, and you just can't pick one channel and this channel and that channel. You have to fit within the boxes of service or the packages of service that are offered, and sometimes they're not ideal, but we don't have control over that.
people-
and
Now
that's
we
what
can,
people need
now we
to
can refer
understand.
all of these people who want to downsize to CTSB to watch a Shakespeare play, and that's on basic cable. So I think we're making progress.
No, the people who are complaining about this are people who are downsizing. They don't want anything but a basic tier. And internet. Two items.
That's an option, isn't it?
Well, they should be
Yeah,
able
but-
to ask for the supervisor on the call.
They do.
I-
Try it sometime.
I have, but I don't want to go to the basic tier. But I can't imagine, and I'm sure John can look into this, but I can't imagine that if a customer wants to downgrade their service to a basic tier, that they would tell them they can't do it. Just cut off the service.
Is that your
And they'll
understanding,
reinstall
John?
it at a
That
cheaper
everyone in
rate.
Berkshire County is eligible for a basic service?
Yes.
Now, there's not a lot on the tier,
No.
but it
Broadcast
does
channels,
give
the
you
big
certain
That's all he
things.
wants is that.
It's-
He's a man who said he's retiring and he's going to be on a very small income and he wants to cut his bill. That's plain and simple.
Yeah.
And they keep telling him, no, you can't do it.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Well,
Well, that's, it's
Why don't you
the
handle
same,
this guy
Possibly,
and
Linda,
get it
if you
done?
get them the customer name and the account number.
he has it.
I
He
Then it can
has
be
it.
done. I mean, this seems to me like this is a lot of time.
This has been going on for over a month now.
No, well.
A month ago is when I
He
sent
knows what
it
his
to
options
John.
are, and he's gonna get back to us.
Well, yes.
By the end of the week is what he said. But yes, anyone should be able to downgrade. Anytime they want. Upgrade, downgrade.
I think it's also important to encourage residents, when they're receiving poor customer service, to take names of who the service person is. Usually when they answer, they identify themselves, so that also, if customer service is not good, we can get back to John with specific names or even the time of day.
They record all their calls, so.
I'm just making a suggestion, Linda.
Yeah, but you can't
Well,
ever
it seems to be
retrieve that
an awkward
recording, so
situation.
she's quite right.
Yes, you can. They can.
Yeah, if they would.
So, anyway, next, your report is, that's not a report.
Well, I put an article on it just to show people some of the 10G stuff that's coming up in DOCSIS 4.0.
Well, wait a minute, we're in 5G now, what's the difference? What does 10G, and what are the steps to get to 10G? Are we going to?
5G is a wireless product. That means generation in the wireless world. In our wired world, 10G means gigabit. So our network, we have a R&D arm called Cable Labs for the cable industry. And 10G is 10 gig symmetrical speeds. So 10 gig down, 10 gig up, and we're testing that.
And where are we now?
4.
We offer 1 gig service every year.
So
It's
we're
not
going to
really
go
the-
suddenly from 1 to 10?
We offer it, but we don't, it's not the standard offering.
No, we do offer it for those that want 400 megabits or 1 gig.
And are you locked, if you got in as a long-term customer at 100 megs or whatever, and the standard offering now is 200 megs, is that kind of a free upgrade, or is that something that probably isn't? I don't know if it's free, but, I was just curious, because, a lot of times the ads have a lot better,
1 or
Offers.
200 is our standard minimum, and then it jumps up to 400, then to 1 gig.
Okay.
So it's national pricing, and there's 3 different price points. So whether you have 1 or 200 for the minimum, and then the 400, and then the 1 gig. Most people don't need 1 gig. Usually, the middle tier is plenty for most households, but there are gamers or people that use a lot of bandwidth and whatnot, or, I have 3 teenagers and my wife and I, and we have a lot of gadgets connected to our network, iPads and iPhones and laptops and whatnot, so it varies from household to household,
But I think we should also think of the new psycho-demographic that's come to the Berkshires, looking at the region as a hub because they can work from anywhere. And many of them are bringing their cohorts along, so compounds are being built. And therefore, it's very important that 1 gig become a minimum. But you're not going, your customer is not.
eventually it will be, but.
But I think what I'm saying to you in a business term is that your customer is not the residential household at all. It is the new people that are coming into this hub, the new industries that are being built. And we've got to prepare for that if we want to be economically viable. We can't just think of ourselves as a little narrow county that's a little bit disconnected.
Yeah,
We've
no,
got to
I'm
think-
talking about strictly residential. I mean, if people want to buy a pipe, they can buy a pipe as big as they want. If a business wants to come here and build a big facility or whatever, we can make a pipe as big as they want. That's
But it's
separate
not
from-
it's the
I'm talking about
entrepreneurial
residential.
community that we have the opportunity to attract. And they may sign up for residential service, but they'll be checking out that they can be streaming everywhere in the world for all of their business and Zooming needs and so forth. So I think we need to look at what residential means.
Well, we can only look at it so far because what our function is cable TV.
Okay.
And that's defined in what's being now redefined, it's that FCC language. It's defined in that, it goes back, way back, that a cable advisory committee is strictly for cable TV.
But so these faster speeds use the same hardware, like in terms of like the wiring, no need for fiber optics, or Verizon has that product that they were talking about but never seemed to happen in most places, that was like fiber, and the speed you're talking about would traditionally be thought of as a fiber speed, right?
Yeah, we have fiber throughout our whole network. Every community has fiber.
No, but like the last into the house.
Yeah, currently we have an HFC network, so it's fiber coax into the home.
Okay.
So the fiber goes to the node in the neighborhood, and then the last mile they call it, or whatever the distance is coax.
Right, but you can do these kind of speeds over coax?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
So John, when, we're getting ready, as we all know, for contract negotiations, the contract is up in May of '23. So you can run fiber up and down the main streets, and then you take coax to the home, is what I just heard you say. You've just taken all that fiber and sliced and diced it and thrown 90% of away because you're going coax. So do you have, again, I read this lead and it's like, that's terrific, but what's it mean for me and my community? So do you have plans that you will be presenting on part of Spectrum as to when the node to the home will be going fiber, or are we stuck with coax as far as we can see in the future?
Well, I wouldn't call it stuck because
I'm
they're
going to call it
testing
stuck.
10G over coax, so.
Okay, I'm going to call it stuck. So when are we going to be changing the coax to fiber to the home or to businesses, et cetera? What's Spectrum's plan on that?
Well, businesses can get fiber to their business if they want a big pipe and pay for it.
So if you don't
I
want
don't know if any time in the near future we'll be getting rid of our coax from the node to the home.
So if I were to install brand new today, if I were to install brand new today, pay for either under the contract you pay it or under the contract I pay it, I would still be getting coax to the home.
Yes. Unless a new community that we build from scratch.
No, that's not us.
I'm just saying, as an example, sometimes because it's cheaper to build fiber to the home, they're going that route in some communities.
But you don't see that for the towns that are served right now by Spectrum?
No.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
You know,
I will just make a comment that I live in a condo community that has 42 units. And there's a Spectrum truck every day in our development because of that coax. We recently redid our roads. We opened up the roads. We didn't just recover. We put in a whole new bedding, and we invited National Grid, Verizon, Spectrum to put in conduit while the road was open, when it would have been really cheap. Well, National Grid did, Verizon did. Spectrum said, we'll pass. We won't do it. So that Spectrum truck lives in our community.
Aren't you lucky?
Well, I was going to say it comes pretty quickly. But we have continuing, ongoing problems that don't get solved. Tiling because of buffering.
But this is a corporate mandate of Charter that owns Spectrum.
Yeah.
So
this is something that needs to be resolved in terms of where and when new fiber gets laid, and why and how. Because if you're going to keep using this, archaic coax, you're going to continue to have service problems.
Well, frankly, this tiny little board in 5 towns in Massachusetts has almost no say over how Spectrum rolls out its infrastructure. And I think I mean, if we want to just vent, it's fine, but I kind of think maybe we should keep our the primary part of our agenda to sort of like where we really can have an impact, because we're getting into topics that we have absolutely no control over.
Well, we do have contract negotiations coming up. And we do have, in the old contract, and we will in the new contract, a clause that says that they will provide what is the industry standard. And we don't set the industry standard, but the industry standard is much higher than what we have now. So, and that clause will be in there, and they will have to upgrade everything that isn't up to industry standard.
Why can't we have RFPs also
For what?
for, if the contract is up in 2023, why can't we offer it to other cable companies?
Oh, we
Nobody's
can.
gonna come in here.
We can,
Nobody's going to come in here.
but other companies don't want to come in here.
No, she has to, I understand your
Yeah.
question. You can provide, and it's customary to provide Spectrum with a RFP as part of a license renegotiation.
She's talking about,
And it's, all of the licenses in Massachusetts are non-exclusive,
Yeah.
so anyone can come on.
it's,
They happen to own the structure, though,
This
which
week.
does present
This
a bit of a
week.
problem.
Yeah.
And the companies who have done, like Whip City and others who have done some of the more recently fiberized communities, you have to get permission to use the poles by both either National Grid or Verizon or Eversource in other parts of the community, and that is a very long process. So I think we have to be aware of what's going on, because we get asked these questions by our citizens. You know, I hear it's fiber, but then I hear it's coax. Well, I've been able to resolve that issue tonight. John, what was the speed that you said was the max speed or the typical speed on coax?
1 gig,
1 G?
gigabits.
Yeah,
yes.
1 gig, okay. All right. But, you know, we've been traded off, Bobby, from Adelphi in some cases to another one to
I
Time
know the
Warner.
history and I've lived it intimately,
you
but
know.
what I'm thinking is, as we look at ourselves as a region, and let me say that from where we're sitting, in 90 minutes, there are 3 million people. There's economic development opportunity, and I think it's going to happen. It's, you know, you don't see what's going on below the surface and other things that I'm connected to. And if it's going to happen, then we have something to sell because we're hooked up with our region.
Yeah.
And then we're multiple state, but we're powerful.
That's very true, but this is a cable
all right,
committee.
now,
So its influence is
John,
limited.
question for you. Charter just signed up, I don't even know how many towns, a lot of towns on that broadband initiative, all the small towns got them wired, and many in Berkshire County that were not wired. And I would like to know what kind of wiring you put in those towns.
In the new towns?
Yeah,
I believe it was
the ones
fiber.
that you just tied.
I think it was fiber in the new towns.
Okay.
And it was fiber also to the home from the node? Like in New
No,
Marlboro?
it's Fiber to the home,
Yeah.
It's fiber to the home.
Yeah.
which I just said, in
Yeah.
new build towns, we are doing that.
But even though you're doing new construction in these 5 towns, if it goes to a new home, it's coax
It doesn't make
from the
sense.
fiber network.
That's why I brought up the point.
Why is that? It's just the network architecture of the town. The
It
rest of
doesn't
the
make
town is
sense.
like that, so.
What
All the same architecture.
what all of our 5 towns are finding is that we're not completely built out. We've now gone from leading the pack to falling behind Mount Washington, Otis, Beckett, Egremont, those towns that are putting in their own networks. And so now we have been served, but we are becoming less well-served.
But those towns, even though they have fiber to the home, they can't get anything that you can't get. That's
No, I'm
my
not-
point. You
That's
say
not the
stop.
point.
No.
They've got it.
Stop.
To the contrary,
Right?
what they get is no buffering,
Isn't that
no
right, Dennis?
tiling and freezing.
It's $100, it's $950 setup fee for a gigabyte. so.
So those towns aren't getting anything more than you get
No,
in any of these.
eastern part of the state, Comcast offers 1.2 gigabytes for $79.95. We're offering it in
Just
Russell.
upgraded yet, because they're competing with FiOS in Boston, and
Yeah.
that's why.
Again, part of the issue that we're talking about, and it gets a little confusing, is the internet base
Right.
We're all talking about
and
internet.
the cable base.
No, well, no, but I'm
they-
talking,
I like to talk about the internet, if you want to talk about it, it's just
But-
not
but-
part of the cable negotiation.
no, but the point is that I'm making is that they all ride on the same wires.
Same network.
Same network. So it affects the TV. It affects the TV. It affects the fact that I get freezing images. It affects the fact that I have to reboot the box every week or so. It affects the fact that all kinds of stuff. That's TV that I'm talking about now. And that they're buffering and the tiling is continuous, and now we have something that is going on which makes me crazy, and that is audio and video that's out of sync, where people's mouths are moving and nothing's coming out.
Yeah, reset your cache.
What?
Reset your cache.
It's all over the set. It's all over the channels. I called it in, and I had one of your techs come out, and it say, this is
Weirdly
something that
on
we
both
can't
the,
handle
like, Amazon,
here on the ground. He
Prime,
said, that's
Fires-
somewhere
and,
else. But
Netflix,
you are
and-
providing that
Talk to
poor
George
signal.
about that?
Pardon me?
Yeah, it happens on all of them. It's like,
I mentioned it to George, but
I have on
he
Apple
was
TV.
going to, George would have been here tonight, but he's away this week. We would have had George, and I'm going to ask it again, but let's see what
finished
happens.
watching
George,
Agent, so I don't even need the
this George that we're talking about is the technical manager for this area.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, people have to call if they're having issues, I don't know.
so I think,
Are you all, you're in different towns?
no, we're in Stockbridge. Well, he lives in Urbana.
I live in North, yeah. I
He
live
runs
in
the
North
town.
Adams, but work down here, but.
When are we going to get away from like the TV guide sort of style? Like, it just seems like of all the devices, trying to find something on Spectrum feels sort of like 1985. And, then you have like, Apple TV or Netflix or Amazon, and it has a little more of a usable interface. Is that ever going to happen, do you think?
If you want streaming, you can do that, but I don't know when they're gonna change that.
All right, let's move on. Thank you, John.
You know?
Okay.
I'm going to follow up with John later
Okay.
about an issue, an ongoing issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Dennis is going to do our license renewal update.
Just we kind of talked about, before you leave, we kind of talked about Sheffield. In 2020, Spectrum reported just one complaint all year for all of your residents. Does that make sense? And that,
I find that hard to believe,
Yeah.
but,
and that-
2020, when we suddenly were at home
You know,
and nothing worked?
there wasn't a single
but wait,
complaint that wasn't satisfied.
I know that I have never had the tiling issues, the voice issues, the separation issues that I hear some other people talk about here. So I don't find Sheffielders to be bashful people. So I don't know if a complaint under their system is reported after a certain period of time. I don't know. I know that I always get my issues that people
There's an
call
issue
me
there,
about, I
John.
get them resolved with John.
I understand that you're just forwarding a report that you're getting from someone else. I really do believe you are just forwarding that report. But there's an issue with the way that Spectrum is reporting complaints that per the Mass Department of Telecommunications Cable, their adoptive order has a pretty fine definition in terms of how a complaint should be logged. And it's any issue that a customer calls, whether it be in writing or verbal, and that you do something about it, that you take an action. And in our September meeting, that wasn't what you said. You said,
Mine, go ahead.
yeah, that you said that not all complaints are logged. and you said that we get millions of calls, and we only log complaints that get escalated. So we're not going to cover this in this meeting, but I'm hoping that you can follow up with your people and see if you can run that to ground, because the report is just fictitious. It's not true.
Well, I think I said in September, my understanding is any written complaint to the FCC, the DEC, and the Attorney General are the complaints that we file in the report. the
Yeah,
Form
that's
500.
not according
That's
to...
not true. The Form 500s are consumer complaints to your customer service,
Yeah.
period, over and out. And we do not have the 2020 report yet. What we have, as far as I'm concerned, is garbage. It's not worth the paper that it's written on, because it says, I personally made more calls in the calendar year 2020 to your people than you logged for all of the 5 towns. Collective. And that's a breach of your agreement.
You call customer service?
Yes, I call customer service when I have a problem, and I have problems a lot.
You keep a
So-
I'm
log.
telling you, we only
You
report
will.
I don't.
ETC,
You will.
FCC, and Attorney General.
We can have some fun.
Pardon me? We're going to file a complaint unless you we're going to give you warning, legal warning, and then we will file a legal complaint.
So Linda, I think
Yeah.
2 things need to be done.
Yeah.
One, I think this conversation needs to be put in a letter to John, because if it hasn't been written, it hasn't been said.
Right.
Which is basically a
I
complaint.
emailed John.
No. Please let me finish. I think there needs to be a letter written to John with Melinda CC'd, that this committee is lodging a formal complaint with Charter that the 500 report is not being filled out properly. Quote what is supposed to be reported in a complaint, okay? And send it to them and CC whatever the cable department is here, as well as the 5 town administrators, managers.
Okay. Renee,
Emails.
draft it, and then we'll run it by everybody and get everybody to,
Okay.
and then
Would you
we'll send it out.
me, I'm going to give you my email.
Oh, I
And
got
would you
it.
send me, you have it, would you send me that
Yes.
definition? And I'll write the letter and I'll give it to you, Linda.
Yeah.
And then let's not wait 3 months
Yeah, thank
to
you.
get the approvals. I would make a motion that we authorize our chair to revise this letter, that I'll send her and send it out on our behalf. I don't want to wait till March to have us do
No, we won't
this.
wait till March, we'll get it out.
Well, you can't poll the committee for approval.
The final
without-
draft, I'll send it to everybody, and you can have a day to say yea or nay.
Again, let's not break the open meeting law
Right.
in the process. Let's just give Linda the right to send it out.
Okay.
So
I've made
moved.
that motion. Is there a second?
So how about the 2 of you work together maybe? Because you seem like you know a lot about it too. Because that's still not a quorum.
Well, no,
No,
what
we
she's
don't.
saying is that we're authorizing the chair to send a letter on
Yeah,
behalf of
and
this board.
we have a motion on the
And I will
floor.
second that.
So what I heard
Okay.
is that John said that he's not following the Mass Department of Telecommunications and Cable adoptive order for the Form 500. That's what you told me. You only lodge a complaint with the FCC. This is being recorded, so we can go back and I can quote you. So that's going to be part of the letter. I've already forwarded you a copy of the order. And the state, I would think, would have an issue with you not complying.
Well,
Might
we're
be
going to
wrong,
copy
but
them on the letter.
I think that they'll have an issue.
I
Okay.
mean, the problem is that the state, when they look at rate increases, looks at the performance and the complaints.
That's right.
And if the complaints are not being filed consistent, then they are going to be lower than, according to that definition, which puts rate increases at a more favorable grant rate. So we've got a motion in a second. Do we want to?
Yeah, I'm all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
great. So you'll send me that, okay?
That
Yeah.
passes.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
I'm all set.
You're all set.
May I, Dennis, you might add in the letter that in strict agreement with all of the rules and regs delineated in the agreement or contract as we.
I agree, the inspector knows that,
They
Okay.
may know that, but it should be in writing, always.
yeah.
The other thing on the update is another resolution that we need, and that is for funding of legal counsel. And I sent out a draft of a letter to all the towns. Michael, you should have gotten it. Renee, you got it. You should have.
I didn't.
It went to you.
I didn't get it.
I brought copies.
Okay, Stan.
There's 2 copies here, that's fine.
Does anybody else need them?
Okay. And I want a resolution that will follow the wording of this letter very closely. Denise, go ahead to Denise. And so that we can get our legal counsel involved at this point, which is where we start looking at the actual document that we're working with and how the changes in the laws may affect us or not. And so this is just exploratory amount. And we will, it explains it very clearly. So do I have a motion to accept?
I'd like to make a motion to send a letter to request legal funding for legal services as part of the license renegotiation.
Second.
Send a letter to request.
Funding for legal services
Yeah.
for the letter that we just reviewed.
Denise, you can include the details of the type of the letter. If you want to attach the letter.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And do we have legal counsel in mind?
Yeah, well, there's a guy who's a specialist at KP Law, and KP Law represents the majority of these towns anyway. So they have a cable specialist, Bill Hewig, who I have had discussions with that go back as far as the last contract, actually.
So you have history.
Yes. So.
And shorthand.
And then I can get on the phone and say, "Hi, Bill."
So what did the last contract cost, Linda?
Pardon me?
Do you remember what the last legal negotiations cost? The last legal with KP Law?
I think it came out, bottom line, after all the bills were split up, it was about $1,000 a town.
Okay, because at your last meeting, you allocated $500.
I know.
You requested $500.
I know, but in talking to Chris Ketchum, who was town manager
Oh, I know
in
Chris.
Lee.
Mhm.
Chris.
No, he's Lennox now.
I'm sorry,
It's
in
Lennox.
Lennox, yeah. And Chris suggested that number would be a more appropriate number.
Okay, so how is this money going to be allocated? By whom and?
It's just to hold it the bills will come into one place. I'm chairman, and so I'm in Lennox, and Dennis is vice chair, and he's also in Lennox. So the bills can come in, I'll talk to Bill Hewitt about them sending a bill that would be a 1/5 portion of the
But
bill.
what I'm asking is is the committee going to know what the money is being spent on?
Yeah.
Or before the money is spent?
Absolutely.
So, for instance, we need to contact with whatever his name is at KP
Bill
Law,
Hewitt.
and the charge for that currently is going to be $2,000. The committee will vote to make that expenditure? That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think it would be good to state that as to who's making the decision on how the money will be spent, that it's made by a majority vote of the committee. That's not stated in here.
I think you'd have to confirm that that's the way they're going to bill.
I'm sorry?
Typically, the lawyers would bill as as needed on a case.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if
I
it's
doubt
the
we'd
same-
have an
if it's the
upfront cost. We would have a cost per hour that they, based on their use.
So it's the same law firm on each side. So how do we make sure it's collaborative?
What does that mean?
No, it's not on each side, it's for the 5 towns.
It's the 5 towns, it's split equally no matter what
Oh,
the
I see,
population.
okay, sorry,
Yeah.
got it. Sorry.
So I think we'd
I-
get an itemized bill after the fact. So,
Yeah, but Bill is good on, if you ask him, he'll tell you right up front how much that thing is going to cost. And if it's too small an amount, which has happened, he will say, my bookkeepers make me crazy if I do such a small bill. Can I send it to one place and they'll split it? And Chris has been good about that.
The only thing I wanted to have added to this letter is that the expenditure of the money is by this committee, not by a single individual or 2 individuals. That's,
Okay, yeah.
that's what I didn't
That's-
say
that's-
clearly. That's what
Okay,
I'd like to
yeah,
have
okay.
added.
We can do that. What I will do is I'll revise that portion.
which lawyer is it that complimented Paige?
For
Do you
Bill
know the name of
Hewig.
the lawyer?
Yeah, Bill Hewig, William Hewig. He's their cable specialist.
All right.
That's all he does is cable, and he does it, well, they're the biggest municipal
Oh,
law
yeah.
firm,
Oh,
so.
yeah.
So he does it for all of them, that's all he does.
Yeah.
And
It
he,
works out well because a lot of the towns use KP law.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I know we don't, but I used to.
So we're done with John?
Pardon
Does
me?
anyone have any other questions for John?
Well, let's just get a resolution.
I would second it with that amendment.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, so we have that resolution. Okay. New business. Right now, the working group for the license renewal is 2 people. It's
I'll
me
add
and it's
on.
Dennis. Are you ready to come on now? Okay, because you were
No, I
reluctant
wasn't
before.
ready before. No.
Okay, all right, so you're ready now. Okay. So that Renee volunteers to be on the committee. Anybody else?
I think
We
the
would do
interesting
I
thing-
wouldn't want more than, say, one more person
Well,
on
I
this
think the
committee.
interesting thing is Linda and I were both in the last one.
Yeah,
How much time is it?
Which carries
Just
over.
out of curiosity.
yeah, we have.
Some
We both
experience.
have some institutional memory of the last one. So we were on the last one in terms of drawing up the final and negotiations. So,
I'm willing to be a sounding board or helper on the business side and have negotiated contracts with T-Mobile on routes and things like that and properties I've owned, but not to do the fine negotiations. You don't want my impatience there.
well,
So I'm happy to discuss business issues or just
Well-
a framework.
okay, well, we can talk about where
Super,
you
whatever.
would work in, because there are areas that you can just focus on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Just maybe where needed.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Any other business? No? We don't have any audience today, so I'm citizen speak. The only citizen here is the videographer.
I got a question about coax now.
What if I have an ISDN line?
Okay, so we don't have anything in there. And the next meeting is March 8th, and it's in Sheffield.
And I've got the room reserved.
Okay. Anything else?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we are adjourned
Nice.
at 7:45.